Welcome back, everybody. Today we're going over this little beauty right here. This is the Trijicon ACOG TA31 variant known as the RCO. So there are 3 different RCOs that I know of, at least off the top of my head. I probably should have checked that before making this video, but I'm just going to go with it. So the 3 that I know of are this one, which is the USMC version or US Marine Corps version, spec'd out for the 20-inch rifles. So this is the A4 version. Now they also make one specified for the M4, which is I believe the M4 version, and then the Army's version, which is a little bit different, but pretty similar to the M4 version of the US Marine Corps. So it's a TA31 with a little bit of tweaks made for military specifications, not in terms of quality. That's one thing I should point out there. I know people would ask me, are the Marine Corps ones or Army ones more durable than the regular ACOGs? They're not. They're built to the exact same specifications in terms of materials and toughness. Just some of the internals are tweaked a little bit, and we're going to talk about that here coming up in just a second. But what we're going to do is let the dogs take a look at it first, then come back in, look at the details of this optic, and let you know what we think of it overall. Getting into the details of the scope, we'll start here at the rear and kind of work our way forward. And one of the biggest things you need to consider when getting an ACOG, any variant, is how the eye relief and field of view is going to affect you. Now, 4-power ACOGs, fixed 4-power like this RCO or any of the TA31 variants are going to have a very short eye relief. So the eye relief on this one is set at 1.5 inches, which is right about here where my hand is if you look at it. So you have to be able to get your eye relatively close to get the full reticle view here on the optic. Now, if you're a little bit further back, you can still see it. There's just going to be some shadowing in the optic itself when you're looking through it, but for optimal 1.5 inches. So that's sort of the downside, is you have to be able to get your face close to it. The upside of that is that you get a huge field of view versus other prism style optics at 100 yards. So with this one, you get a field of view of 36.8 feet at 100 yards. So it's a very, very wide field of view. When you look through it, you kind of feel like you can see everything. So that's certainly the advantage of it. So pros and cons to each, but that is what it is. These 2 tabs here at the rear, that's for mounting a red dot sight on top of your ACOG. So if you want something that's a little bit more useful for close-up shooting, you can put like a RMR right on top and allow you to transition back and forth between the RMR and your ACOG when you step out to a little bit further distances. Now, if you do that, you will get a little bit of a chin weld, but it's certainly a little bit quicker up close. So moving forward, the body of the scope itself is made of 7075 T6 aluminum. It is mil-spec anodized, and ACOGs have this sort of like rubberized coating sealant that they apply to it. Very, very durable stuff. It holds up really, really well, and never had any problems with the bodies of the ACOGs. They're bomb-proof, as the advertising says. I've found that to be true in real life. Both the windage and elevation turrets are under these capped housings right here, and it does have this little wire in there to prevent them from being lost. Of course, any of you guys that have served in the military know these tend to break and sometimes just get lost. But even without them being on there, with no caps on, it is waterproof down to 11 meters. So certainly pretty good performance there. But you can see it tells you the direction to move your reticle in when you're zeroing it in. Each one of the clicks on there is going to be good for ½ an inch at 100 yards on this particular model. And I'll quiet down. Hopefully the microphone will pick up the actual clicks. So good tactile and audible clicks all the way around, letting you know you're setting it in. The RCO style reticles, or any of the TA31 variants for 4 power anyway, will all have dual illumination, meaning that they will have tritium illumination as well as this fiber optic rod right here that allows light in, which magnifies the intensity brightness of the actual illuminated portion of the reticle. Now on this particular model, the chevron and then the little crosshair underneath the chevron are what are illuminated. Different ACOGs, different portions of the reticle are illuminated, but that is designed so it'll allow you to draw your eye to it quickly, to quickly pick it up, for fast shooting and fast target acquisition. Now, the downside of that is that if you are, say, shooting into an environment that is a different illumination level than you're in, so say you're inside of a building shooting out into an alleyway that's real bright and inside the building is relatively dim, basically the tritium is really all that you're going to get for illuminating your reticle because the fiber optic isn't going to be gathering a lot of light. Inversely, if you're out in a bright field shooting into a dark window, it may be a little bit too bright for you, and you may get some blooming on your reticle there. So one of the things that I think is kind of funny is that in both the Army and the U.S. Marine Corps manual, it shows you how to tape the fiber optic here. So put a piece of tape over it. They recommend using 100-mile-an-hour tape. I've always used electrical tape. It's a little bit easier to get on and off, in my opinion. But to tape that down so that way your only illumination source is the tritium, and that will prevent the sort of blooming of your optic. But really it's user preference. Some guys never do it, some guys always do it. Really, it's up to you in terms of how you want to control it, but that is how they recommend doing it. Up front here we have this kill flash, which basically just slips on and off, which we'll show you here in a second. What that's going to do is prevent any glare from coming off your objective lens. By the way, that objective lens is a 32mm lens. It'll prevent any of the glare from shining out into the enemy's field of view. Also, if you're fighting an enemy who uses nods, night vision optics or something like that, it will greatly minimize the amount of signature coming out of the front of your optic in a low light situation because of the tritium. So the tritium will put some out. But to take it off, it's pretty simple. You can either pull it up and over or under. It really doesn't matter. It's got this little rubber band on there, and you can just take it off like that and set it aside if you don't want it. If you want it to be a little bit lighter weight or a smaller profile, but the weight on this optic, including this TA51 mount here, is going to be 15.8 ounces, so just under a pound, and there are ways to lighten it up. Of course, the mount is one of the biggest. The TA51 mount's a good mount. I generally replace them. You guys have seen me running different mounts here throughout the review. I've been running the GDI, which is a good mount, and right now they're actually really affordable. I think they're like $40 over at Bowtech on clearance, but they're good mounts, good QD mounts, and I've run others here. I've run Geissele, you guys have seen, and several other ones out there, so plenty of good mounts available for the ACOG. That's one of the advantages of it, but the TA51 is a good mount overall. It's just a little bit heavy. Getting into the reticle itself, one thing that's very different with the RCO type ACOGs versus any of the other TA31 variants is that it has the M150 target reference system, or the grid target reference system, you'll hear it called. I read a lot of things on the internet out there about what it's for. I know some folks say that it's for leads. In my opinion, that's not exactly true. So basically, if you break it down, the start of each grid section on the left and right of the chevron starts 10 mils apart from the chevron itself, and then after that it's broken down into 5 mil increments. So that could be used for a number of things. Really, in theory, it could be used for directing fire, making adjustments. Absolutely, it could. It could perhaps be used for leads, but something would have to be moving pretty fast at most distances for that. But what I believe it's designed for is for communicating positions and using it as a reference system within a small team. So say you're on a fire team and everybody's looking at the same building or car or something like that. It'd be pretty easy to be like, yeah, you're 30 mils to the right, you see that guy right there in the white shirt, and everybody has the same point because you're all looking through the same optic. That makes sense to me. So that's what I believe it's for, is for communicating positions on the battlefield within a small unit. The actual BDC in the center has a chevron tip, which I really like. You guys who have watched the channel know that I'm a fan of the chevrons versus the crosshairs on ACOGs. It just allows you a little bit more precise aiming point, and the chevron itself can be used as a range estimation tool along with the stadium marks all the way down. So basically, the outer width of the chevron at 300 meters will equate to 19 inches. So 19 inches is roughly the size of a man standing looking at you or down in the prone position. So it's a way to quickly range estimate the distance of that person. So you're looking out and you range that guy shoulder to shoulder at the edges of your chevron, you know he's approximately 300 meters away, and that's when you can start engaging at the right holdover. Now, corresponding, if you go down, if the 19 inches or his shoulders is at 4, 6, 7, or 800 meters, then you can engage there. So that certainly is one of the advantages of this optic. It gives you a quick reference system based on a 19-inch, aiming point, relatively speaking, and it lets you know the distances and the holdovers. Now it's designed to be zeroed at 100 meters, and then that way all the drop marks will work. Now this particular one is for the 20-inch rifle with M855 ammo. However, you guys have probably seen me using this optic on a few different rifles that don't exactly meet that criteria throughout the video, and it's actually pretty easy with ACOGs to just put in your numbers for whatever you're shooting and get a solution. So for instance, I was shooting the Fruity Munitions 147 grain 308 round there, and I just put the numbers in to the actual reticle and a ballistic calculator, and you can see here how it works out. So it's not going to be exact, but it'll be close and you'll know your holdovers. So while the BDC is for one particular barrel length with one particular round, you can use it on other ones. The holdovers are just going to change a little bit. I realize that some folks out there watching this may never have actually seen an ACOG in person, so just to kind of give you an idea of some of the different options that are out there, we'll show you a couple size comparisons. This is the RCO up top, just without the kill flash. This is a TA02, which again is a 4-power ACOG. This is a TA01, again a fixed 4-power ACOG. So what do we have here? Basically, we'll slide this one off to the side. This is the 02, is a battery powered one, and basically has no tritium or fiber optic on there. The illumination comes just from this battery source here, and you just turn it to get it on. So folks who want to absolutely control the brightness of the reticle, the TA02 is a good option as opposed to the RCO. Now, additionally, one thing that this setup has, this has the GDI Archon B model. And what that does is it actually puts your ACOG up about 1/4 of an inch and back more. So for those of you guys that are mounting it and need a little bit closer to your eye because you can't get your eye quite close enough, a solution like this mount here would be a good one. We'll put a link down below for you guys looking for that. But it's QD mount, very good quality stuff, and that's just one of the other 4-power options out there. The other one is going to be this one. This is a TA01, and you can see from the outside they look very similar with the exception of the TA01 not having the fiber optic. The reason is this is a tritium illuminated only one, and we also have a set of backup iron sights on top. Now, this one has a similar solution with the GDI mount. This is your base one. It's actually turned backwards, and that's for a reason. It's because we're using the cram device here, and what that does is it also does basically the same thing as the mount we just showed you. It moves it a little bit further back to help alleviate some of that eye relief issue. You don't need to, but it's just an option. And again, this one just has tritium only, so there's no power or no light, I should say, coming in from the fiber optic. Now, in terms of a different size ACOG, this here is the TA55 optic. You can see there I did put some electrical tape over it the last time I was out using it. This is a 5.5 power fixed optic, so much, much larger. It just shows you kind of how compact these little 4-power ones are. Very nice compared to this one, which is certainly much larger. I figured just for fun, we'll roll in the 6-powered ACOG. This is the machine gun optic. They call it the MGO ACOG, 6-power, huge compared to this little TA31 here. It just kind of shows you the difference of scale between the two optics. But this is tritium and fiber optic as well, with the fiber optic being back here, but just a gigantic optic. Awesome optic, but much, much heavier and larger than the RCO. Because this is one of the military versions of the optic, I think there's a lot of people out there watching this video that aren't normal subscribers to the channel and probably haven't seen any of my other ACOG videos. So why would you want an ACOG, right? Let's answer that up front. Well, there's a number of reasons. Number one, they're very proven. They've been literally to war and back many, many times and done very well. And the soldiers and Marines that have used them have, generally speaking, very high praise for them. And that's not always the case with soldiers and Marines and the equipment they're used. There's not a lot of them out there who are going to talk bad about the ACOG. The thing just works, and it works in some of the most austere and tough conditions out there in the world. So for civilian shooters, you can count on it just about in any type of condition that we would put them through. So there's that. It's very, very rugged, very durable. The glass is phenomenal. Here running the channel, I get the opportunity to shoot a lot of really nice guns and a lot of really nice optics. It's one of the things I'm blessed with here. And in terms of optical clarity, I mean, there's stuff that's as good as the ACOG. I don't know if there's anything that's better. I mean, it just gathers so much light. It's so crystal clear, and the prism optics that are in there are phenomenal. And again, very, very durable. So glass quality is awesome as well. Bomb proof, has a very usable BDC that doesn't take a lot of time and training to get used to. That's very advantageous as well for a lot of folks. And another reason for this particular optic is that it's clone correct or it's service correct. So I know a lot of folks out there are veterans getting out of the military, maybe still in the military and looking for something that they already know. They don't have to relearn. They're already been trained on and very comfortable with. The RCO variants fit that bill very well for a lot of folks out there. So the downside of it, for sure, is cost. ACOGs are 100% made in America by Americans, and they're made to military specifications, so they're not cheap. I picked this one up, I think, last year or 2 years ago. It was like $1,400, and that's pretty much what they go for. You can find them on sale some places for the RCO variants for a little bit less if you're patient. Sometimes they're a lot more. These ones tend to, generally speaking, be $200 to $300 more than the regular TA31 variants, just because they're a little bit more in demand because they're mil spec. But all in all, very good optic. If you're looking for a clone build like you guys saw with my A4 build throughout the video, I mean, you can't go wrong. It's going to work very well with it. So good optic all the way around. Just whether or not it's worth it to you or if the 4-power is the one you want is a choice you have to make. But it's certainly a high quality optic. If you guys have any questions about this scope or anything else we talk about here in the review, you can always post down below in the comment section. You can also post over at my Facebook page as always. But thanks for watching, guys. Thanks for subscribing, and we'll see you in the next video.